Dear friends, for last 2 Sundays we had been discussing how to get connected to the truth after exploring the connections, and today we shall see how we become united with it. We become one with it. We experience the truth as our very essence. We experience ourselves as we are, not within the limitations of body, mind and such things. We go beyond all the diversity, all the multiplicity, without really negating it. We understand, we feel, we experience the underlying unity, just like we experience, we understand the oneness of all the waves by looking at the ocean. As you can see on these screens, that we have all these waves rising and falling, different names, different shapes, different styles, like we all are, and yet there is this underlying oneness of the ocean. So, when we realize our true nature as this, like this ocean, we become perfected, liberated, and we attain to the goal of life. And this is now, as we had been saying, just by way of recapitulation, let me show you a few of the slides that we had already seen here. The problem begins with our being torn into these two conflicting awarenesses. The awareness or the sense of oneness, and yet the experience of multiplicity. And that multiplicity is again a shifting multiplicity, constantly changing. And there is a duel between these two, as it were, going on. We look for unity, therefore a sense of unity makes us happy. We sense it, and yet we do not emerge we do not merge with that unity because we see the multiplicity and go for it. We see the source of happiness, source of fulfillment in this multiplicity too. And therefore we have this conflict at hand, that then shapes up in our life as so many types of desires. We saw this, that as all these desires that we have for protection, for love, for progeny, for happiness, for knowledge, for peace, and then you can name many more. All of these that we struggle for, all of these that we want to get fulfillment from, all these can be clubbed together, can be combined together, and can be termed as God. We are looking for God, and God therefore is the one who gives all these things, and God is the one in which all these things have been put in, or all these desires, everything is put in this one word as God. So, in that sense, God is a definition, a one word for all these things. So, whether God exists or God doesn't exist, this question hinges on whether we have all these desires or we don't have all these desires. If we don't have these desires, we don't need God. If we have all these desires, then by definition, as far as this discussion is concerned, there is God that we are striving for. So, we also saw that there is the path, the connections, various connections that we can explore is through the different faculties that we have, like the faculty of knowledge, faculty of work, faculty of love, and the faculty of psychic control, which get called technically as this yoga of knowledge, yoga of love or devotion, yoga of work, and yoga of psychic control. Jnana yoga, bhakti yoga, karma yoga, and raja yoga. And we have to kind of tie ourselves, our personality now, to yoga. It is said that now, otherwise our personality is tied to what is technically called bhoga. To change it and get it connected to yoga is a change of direction. Bhoga is just increasing the perception of multiplicity without the perception of unity. And thus it goes on causing increasing desires, increasing in intensity and extensity as well. The extension of desire and they're becoming more intense, more problems, more struggles, and no peace, no joy. That becomes the life when we connect ourselves to what is called bhoga. Now, when you connect to yoga, the ideas now are like having changed the direction of life. What happens then? The pattern becomes, these very things. Now, instead of becoming obstacles, they now become our friends taking us towards the goal. So, what is needed, we saw that giving these means that we have, like our intellect, our faculty of emotion, and faculty of work, they need to be given proper direction, proper refinement, and proper strengthening. And now, after getting connected to them, becoming a yogi instead of a bhogi, you now are on a completely different journey. Now you start moving towards the goal of life. In a symbolic manner, we can say the progress begins. This is an actual journey, friends, where we can see the transformation happening in our life. It is not just intellectually understanding something, but when we actually take up the journey, like you decide that I will go there and imagine many things about that place, but then when the journey actually commences, at every step of the journey, your view starts changing. So, you get onto this journey now. It is a long journey, kind of journey. Just imagine in a spacecraft, you are going beyond this earthliness, means getting tied to this physical or emotional life. One has to transcend these things. So you start going towards that, and as you go, what happens now? If your direction is right, then the destination starts coming closer and closer to you. You approach the destination and you feel that you are getting closer to that. So you start feeling the presence of divine more and more in your life. And then we can see the symptoms of it also in our life. What happens? All the desires, they start decreasing. The desire for various earthly pleasures, they start reducing. Also, we start feeling more joy, more peace, more love actually in our life. So more of that will be found, and less of the drags and desires for the physical pleasures, the attachments at the emotional level with things in the world. All that starts going down, starts reducing, and we progress to that goal. So those things start appearing more and more in our life. And then, of course, being journey, there are obstacles there too. Not that it goes on without the struggle or without the obstacle. Many people feel that the spiritual life is so much of struggle. Yes, it is so much of struggle. But please look at the other side. If you are not living a spiritual life, just say worldly life. Is it bereft of struggles? Are the struggles otherwise less in life? They are, in fact, more, because there is so much of competition, so much of trying to snatch things from others, lack of peace, and all that is much more there. So when we complain that in spiritual life it is all hard, it is all struggle, yes, it is all struggle. But is there life otherwise without struggle? Had that been the case, probably nobody would have turned towards spiritual life. Had the life otherwise been quite easy, smooth sailing, and no struggles, no problems, people wouldn't have really turned towards spiritual life. In spiritual life, there is struggle, but that struggle is taking us towards the right destination, towards the goal of life. It is like driving in the wrong direction and driving in the right direction. And do you complain like that driving in the right direction, lot of gas is spent, going in the wrong direction, does your car run on water? You spend gas there also. In fact, you spend it indefinitely, because the destination will never come. You are going in wrong direction, so you will continue to only spend gas without getting anywhere. If the direction is right, well, yes, you will be feeling that yes, the destination, you are coming closer and closer. And thus, one has to see that these obstacles are mentioned here not to discourage us, but to make us aware that you need not think that, well, it is all just smooth sailing. No. It is working against gravity, friends. You are going up, so working against gravity. What is this gravity here? Still there is pull of enjoyments. It is not gone, so you have to work against it. It is, one must be aware of that those things will try to pull us down. And yet, we have to steadily march ahead. like many of you who go for mountaineering, climb up, climb up. Now, of course, climbing up means you have to spend a lot of energy. It is an effort, it is a struggle, but with the heights attained, every time you feel, hey, look, I have climbed this mountain. Yes. So it is just to make us aware that there are these things in our life. Why it is necessary to become aware of this is because many times our expectations become very high. Many times people take up a spiritual discipline, a spiritual life, and want very quick results. That, oh, for 6 months I have been doing this practice, nothing is happening. Well, 6 months, look at how many years and how many lifetimes you have been struggling going in the wrong direction. So, immediately in 6 months you will not be able to see. There are so many pulls. Talking big things comes very easy, just frothy words, but it is actually achieving even a little progress requires a lot of struggle. As we had seen in the last class, one has to have the discipline and patience, readiness to keep on putting in dedicated efforts for a long time, and then we get to make progress. Then there is another funny thing, the pull of logic and reason. Once you think, okay, I will cross over all these enjoyments, there is another subtle pull, which comes in a very beautiful, nice form. And yes, this pull of logic and reason. Logic and reason are very good tools, but getting tied to the tools doesn't make us have good use from the tools. Reason is very good, logic is very good, if they do not become your masters. So, it is very important that we try to apply this tool where it is not applicable. It is good, where you want to, either put in a screw or take out a screw, so you use a screwdriver. But for many other things, that screwdriver will not work. And if you say that, no, I will do my all works only with the screwdriver, oh, please sign on this check and let me take out my screwdriver, foolishness. Screwdriver is not the instrument for that. It is a very useful tool for certain things. So reason, logic, very good tools. Not for everything. You cannot achieve everything by that tool. That tool has its own limitations, and many times we fail to grasp this idea. And so what happens if we do not get over this pull? We remain in that region only where reason and logic are applicable. Our spaceship then will not be able to cross that barrier unless we overcome this pull of reason and logic. It is not that we have to give it up, but we have to understand where it can be applicable. It is not applicable everywhere, and so that is another thing. Third thing, the attachment to being, you see, somebody, my own, I am a separate entity. That is a big attachment. I am different from others. I am somebody. And that is one's own separate identity is very difficult to give up. That no, I am very spiritual. There also it comes, I am a Swami, I am a very spiritual person. That identity is difficult to give up. But one should be ready to give up that identity also, identity of being a separate individual. It is the appeal of this is very big, very strong, and we harp on that all the time. That you don't know me, I am a very different person. As if, do we know ourselves? The problem would have been solved had we been knowing ourselves. But we have a very vague but a very dear idea about ourselves, that we do not want to give up our individuality. Swami Vivekananda mentions that in many lectures, especially in the West, that many would be scared of losing the individuality. He would ask, where, can you tell me where is your individuality? Tell me where it is. Is it in the body? Is it in the mind? Where is that individuality? It is just a hoax, an illusion. There is no locus for it, and yet we try to hold on to this delusion and thereby miss the truth. And so this is a pull that we must learn to go beyond. So, and there are many more obstacles that we will face. There is in the books like Viveka Chudamani, Vedanta Sar, and even many Christian texts, they tell of what different obstacles in the spiritual progress can come. It is the different things that keep on blocking our way. So, from now, if we are ready to go beyond these, the readiness should be there that yes, I will go beyond this. Requires courage, friends. The courage that, okay, anyway, what is more going to happen? The life is anyway going away, ebbing away. I cannot be living indefinitely anyway in this ignorance, in this physical body. And so one should take up the courage that let me follow the right path. It is not easy, friends, to have that spiritual courage. Great people, initially, they feel the fear of it. When Narendranath, later who became Swami Vivekananda, was initially touched by Sri Ramakrishna, because he saw that Narendranath is very highly qualified spiritual person. So he touched him. But at that time, Narendranath was not ready to get that experience of the individuality being dissolved. And so he got terribly scared and screamed, "What are you doing this to me? I have my father, mother," and so forth. And Sri Ramakrishna burst out laughing, saying, "Oh, okay, you have father, mother and all that. Okay, then let it be, for now let it be." Then afterwards, when Narendranath started pestering him for that experience, Sri Ramakrishna kind of miffed and said, "When I was going to give you, then you said, I have my parents, and now why are you asking again?" So it is, the idea is that this individuality is to be sacrificed. It is a hoax. It is a phantom. It is not a real thing at all. So one needs to have that courage to go beyond that. And then we can see the great progress happening. Our journey takes us beyond body, mind, time, space. See how wonderful will that journey be. The description is, of course, very, very difficult, and because of the use of language that has limitations, it has to be very hazy descriptions. I will quote from Swami Vivekananda's beautiful poem that is titled as Song of Samadhi. An originally Bengali poem, later translated into English. And he says there, lo, the sun is not, nor the comely moon, all light extinct in the great void of space. Floats shadow-like image of the universe. This whole universe, everything. Now the sense of reality about it goes away. It starts appearing like shadow. It is actual experience, friends, that this universe which we feel, it is so real. I can touch it, I can grasp it, I can understand it, I can love it, I can connect the things here by reason, I can connect cause and effect. All this universe now starts appearing very hazy. Like when we wake up from the dream, all the dream world, when we were dreaming, it appeared so logical, so nice. When we wake up, all those images, they become kind of blurred, not really meaningful. So, similarly, this is just an analogy, don't stretch it too much, that it is the whole universe now loses the sense of being real. Swami Brahmananda, a brother disciple of Swami Vivekananda, who was president of the Ramakrishna order for many years, and he used to be quite reluctant to attend these board meetings and so forth. Although as president he was supposed to attend all those and give these guidance, so he was reluctant to attend most of them. And if somebody dragged him, he would go and just sit like that without giving his opinions or much suggestions. Then somebody asked him, why do you are president of the order, you should firmly state your opinions, we want your guidance. He said, well, many times this all appears to me like the shadowy pictures. Now, so I don't get any interest, any inclination to give any advice in that matter. So, that is how this whole universe in this progress starts appearing. And in the void of the mind involute, there floats the fleeting universe, rises and floats, sinks again, ceaseless, in the current of I. That you see then, as he describes here, that this whole universe now is seen as floating in the current of I, like the waves on this stream of I. It is seen as the reality, and all other things, the names, forms, the shapes, they seem to come up and again go back in that flow of individuality or I. He is feeling everything is happening right in that. And so what has happened here, see, the divisions are gone. There is now the feel of I. But that also, that only I, that feel is there. Only I. But again, that is a feel. There is still the feeling of I. That is again not the absolute. The journey has to continue even beyond that. It is very alluring to, take a break and take a stop there. See, all these are so, we see this, even this world where enjoyments are all just smeared with all filthiness, and still we cannot give up those things. We are still lured by even those. But these are much, much superior as we transcend this level after level. The joy becomes so overwhelming that the idea comes, okay, enough, I have attained a lot. Most of the people do not come even halfway to it. I am better than that. So let me take a break. I don't think I need to go anymore. So, okay, you stop there and start enjoying that state. In many Vedanta texts tell that this is what happens in the course of meditation as the mind rises. There is the joy goes on becoming more and more, and one starts enjoying that meditation. See, the psychology is very funny here. As you start enjoying the meditation, meditation stops. The journey stops. Like you stop to enjoy the scenery. What happens? You stop. You do not go forward. Get stuck in that. So, you have to tell yourself, this is not the destination. I have to go further. I have to go further. So this state of I, everything is really I. And that idea, there is still that feel of I. That is not the ultimate destination. So Swami Vivekananda says in the poem, slowly, slowly the shadow multitude entered the primal womb and flowed ceaseless, the only current, the I am, lo. It stopped. Even that current flows no more. Void merged into void, beyond speech and mind. Whose heart understands, he verily does. There is no way one can put this experience in words. Only the one who knows can feel it. That is, you can feel it, but you cannot express in words. That is a state that one comes to, that it is a nothingness merging into nothingness. In Upanishads, you read the descriptions to this effect, like Kathopanishad says that yathodakam shuddhe shuddham asiktam tadrageva muner atma bhavati gautama. That you see, he tells the disciple Nachiketa that look, if when you add another analogy, beautiful analogies, if you add pure water into pure water, what does it become? It becomes pure water. It was pure water. It just, you see that as pure water, that's all. So, the realization is something like that, not that you become somebody different, but you realize what you really are, that's all. Not that you become free, means not like we get the image, becoming free, becoming liberated, means think that there is a prison. Now I get released from the prison, I get liberated. So here remains the prison, here I am, and now I am looking at the prison. That is an image that the mind forms. That now, earlier, Yogatmananda was a bound person. Now, after doing all these spiritual practices, what happened? Now Yogatmananda became a free person coming out of this prison. Well, not like that. You just realize that there was no prison. It was all your imagination. That you thought, you understood, you perceived that there is bondage. Really, there is no bondage. There is no you. There is no world. You alone. The reality alone is there. You never were bound. Sri Ramakrishna used to tell that story that in the a saint came in a king's court, and the king prayed to him, "Oh, please tell me the way by which I will become liberated. Please save me from this bondage." And then the sage, he embraced and clutched hard a pillar in that hall and started screaming, "Oh, please release me from this pillar." And everybody laughed. "Well, you are holding the pillar, that's it. What is how the pillar is not holding you, you are holding the pillar. Just let it go, that is what you have to do." So let it go. You are always free. No freedom is to be brought, but just to know that I am free. After all this journey, what do you get? You expect that, well, then there will be a lot of new things that I will be able to see and all. You realize yourself, that's all. Nothing. I am saying that's all, but that is everything really. Nothing more needs to be done. That is, all the problems are gone. It is therefore that alone is difficult to express this idea. But let us not think by this description that it is something abstract, and how do we know if somebody has this realization or this experience or not? Well, it is a living experience, friends. The life gets transformed with this experience. Let us not think that this means the person has to be, a dead person, and that's no, a living person. The awareness changes completely. And with that awareness, now how this person lives. How is that awareness? Again, not very easy to describe, but one of the best descriptions that one can find is in second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the end verses from 55 to 72. Which are known as the signs of a person of steady wisdom, sthita prajna lakshana, the signs of a person with steady wisdom, how this person behaves, because that is the practical thing. If there is this a person with that knowledge is living the same life of getting embroiled in all this worldliness and having all the problems, then what is the point of getting knowledge? Suppose you are told that these are great bulbs, even if you pass electricity through them, they remain as dark as they were. Would you like to have those bulbs? No, it is no use. So if the knowledge enters a person and that doesn't change the life of the person, what is the use? And so Arjuna had asked, that disciple Arjuna had asked this question, that how the life of this person changes. And the answer was given. It is this 20 verse long answer, about 18 verses long answer. So, but the important part of that answer is that there is no desire left. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyeva atmana tushtah sthita prajnastadochate. That what happens to that person? Does he not eat? Yes, that person eats. Does he not walk? The person walks. Does he not talk? Yes, he talks. Like anybody else in appearance. Nothing changes in the appearance, at least on the superficial level. But what has gone now? Desires are completely gone. All our actions are propelled by so many desires combining and recombining and so forth. But here, that person seems to be doing those very things, but without any desire whatsoever. And lack of desire, does that person's life then becomes kind of morose, miserable? Because we associate falsely the joys and the pleasures with desires. That, hey, I have the desire, so I go to party and have a lot of fun. If there is no desire, I will just sit in the home and feel morose, feel depressed. Because there is no desire. So those people who are therefore depressed are told, hey, come on, go there. Why don't you go and watch that ball game? Thousands of people are there, you can go. Because the lack of desires, we feel, is going to make the life drab and miserable. But this person's life is, although completely free of desires, it is not anywhere even close to being drab. In fact, it is full of bliss. It is very, very blissful life. If you see some of these people's lives, you will see the overflowing bliss, like Sri Ramakrishna. What a blissful life it was, even though he was suffering from that throat cancer. There was no dearth of bliss at all. He could distribute that bliss. It was so overflowing. So, where from that bliss is coming? That verse says, Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. Not from dependence on objects or situations. Our pleasures are dependent on these situations and objects. If I get this, then I am happy. If I don't get it, I am not happy. If my neighbor gets it, then I am positively sad. Then it is all that kind of, you see, our situational pleasures. And then dependent on persons. And so our life is reduced to the life of beggars. I keep on begging for little pleasures. Oh, dollars, please give me a little pleasure. Oh, a woman, give me a little pleasure. Oh, man, give me a little pleasure. It is constantly begging and not getting. That becomes, this kind of life. But this person where is the source of happiness? His own self. Doesn't need to beg. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. What a great idea. And what we can get by this knowledge. Let us see. Our dependence for happiness on something else will completely go away. Whether something happens or something doesn't happen, that will not have the power to control my happiness, because the happiness is with me. So therefore, we see that how happy and how contented this life is. It is so full of contentment, because nothing needs to be done further. It has reached a destination so peaceful, like you had take up a long journey somewhere, very tiresome, sometimes we go driving, to that Michigan Ganges town, a long journey, and so when we are about to get there, already we are starting feeling, okay, then we will relax, then we shall have no problem for some time at least. When we reach the destination, then there is the real relaxation, real peace. So that will be the life of such a person. And so therefore, this life of being united. For the lack of a better word, this is being used, that getting united. It is not like two things becoming one, united, but it is you realize your true nature, and that's it. Mirabai, in one of her songs, therefore describes it that you started to cross the ocean thinking that, well, here the life is full of all sufferings and bondages. Let me cross this ocean of suffering and then meet the God, where it will be all bliss. But then she says, all this ocean just dried up. There is no ocean to cross. It is here itself I found everything. So it is only the illusory ocean is crossed, that's all. The illusion of ocean is crossed, and we realize that we were always blissful. We were always at peace. Nothing had the capability of disturbing my peace, only my illusions. So when those illusions are gone, then we get united. So let us start now. If we have explored the connections, then let us get connected. And then let us start this journey and get united. So, thank you, friends.